welcome to A New View. We are Restored Ministries, and we are so glad you've joined us. We're talking about tools for success, and we're also talking about goal setting last episode, and this one we're going to talk about the keys to consistency, because we are 10 days into the new year, and sometimes we can already lose our resolve for the resolutions. Right. We can maybe haven't set our goals, or we're not really, as we talked about last episode, we haven't really done the specific things that we need to make sure that our goals can be specific and attainable and achievable and things like that. So we wanted to give you some keys to consistency with this episode. And I have a great little saying that I just found the other day. And it says, what is the alternative to discipline? It's disaster.
Yeah.
And so we have to discipline ourselves to say, we have to, like we were talking about, we have to do those action steps in order to be successful. So the tools for success is a key to consistency, is how we're going to get there.
So if you want to avoid disaster, stay tuned.
That's right. Avoiding
Exactly.
disaster.
Exactly.
So I also want to go in here with the definition for consistency is the conformity in the application of something, typically that which is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness.
That's good.
Consistency is what you need toward logic, accuracy, and fairness.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Consistency.
And a lot of people struggle with consistency. I struggle with
I
consistency.
struggle with it, yeah.
The girls that I've set up an accountability group with, we talk about how can we be more consistent. And I mean, I think there are different steps, like different tools we can give you today that will help you. But I would say overall, do not give up. If you want to be consistent on something, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give in. Don't give up.
Exactly.
With that in mind, make sure that what you're trying to be consistent about is worth it.
Right.
That it's still, that you still have a strong why with it, or maybe it's a sign that it's not that, it's not what you're thinking that you need to, it's not really what you need to be doing, that it's okay to step away from that for a little bit, or to, I mean, for me, I'm just thinking of the stuff I struggle with being consistent on. For example, we've been talking about this in the bathroom, but I'm not supposed to eat gluten. Like, it's a bad idea for me to eat gluten for my health. And I can get away with it, but I really struggle with being consistent. And so I have to remember my why. My why can't be because, you know, when I don't have gluten, I also am bitter. But that can't be my why, because I've gotten to the point now where, I'm fine with it. I'm cool with that if I'm not as firm or whatever. So, you know, one thing, the big thing on helping you to keep your consistency is not giving up.
Right.
Okay. And then another thing is continually knowing your why. You know, why do I want to continue to do this? Why is this important? Why do I see such value in this? And again, if that means you journaling, why is it important for me not to eat gluten? Like, for example, for me, or I'm trying to think of what else you could use that as an example
I think about, you know, looking at it as what do I want most compared to what do I want right now. Right now in the flesh, I want that bread.
Yes.
You know, what do I want most? I don't want to be sick.
Yeah.
And because I'm kind of in the same thing, I'm kind of in a forced, you know, removing that from my diet. But we talk about that in our recovery group that has to do with emotional eating. Is what do I want most versus what do I want right now?
Yes.
And a lot of times we won't take that holy hush, that pause, you know, and say and give myself, well, I want most is to hit this goal of losing 15 pounds by da-da-da-da-da. If I give in and I have, you know, pizza or I have whatever like that, that's not really getting me able to obtain that goal. So what do I want most? My most is my goal is I'd like to lose 15 pounds. You know, what I want right now is the pizza. So it's kind of evaluating. Maybe I change and I say, hey, I'm going to do a veggie pizza, or I'm going to do a alternative crust that's going to, you know, I mean, so there's different ways.
Or I'm just going to lick the top of the pizza and hope it's enough.
Just smell it for a while.
Smell it for a while, yeah.
That's a tool, kids. Write that one down.
That's true. That's
So
true.
Gretchen Rubin also says that what we do every day matters more than what we do once in a while.
Yeah,
So for my biggest thing, I think, in consistency or on consistency is when you're not consistent or when you do mess up those times that you will, don't beat yourself up, because
Yes.
that's the first step toward messing up again.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because that's really to be consistent. I mean, it's hard, because you were saying, like, what do we look at here? What are some tools for success to keep us consistent? But I think we have to go back and we have to talk about, writing those things down. Writing those things down. And I know getting a template, getting, there's journals, there's planners, there's all those types of things that are tools to help you succeed. And I know, Restored Ministries, we're developing a planner, and what our hopes are in the template of this planner is to get people and to get ourselves into the practice of digging deeper daily.
Simplifying that
Simplifying,
process.
yes.
But yet you're yielding the deeper results.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Because some
Beautiful.
people may just think for business-wise a to-do list, or if you have kids and they have activities, just to do that. But on that planner, they may be forgetting to carve out that me time, whether it's self-care, whether it's creative time, whether it's time with the Lord, or they're forgetting to look at those things like maybe the first impressions of the day. We serve a God that's not insignificant. Nothing is insignificant to him. So there's some significant things that he might be just kind of giving us each morning. And if we're not writing those down and letting him, unpack them throughout the day or the weeks ahead, we'll kind of miss those things.
Yeah.
Writing our dreams down. Also, if we're in ministry or business or just encouraging others, social media, I mean, those can be overwhelming if you have more than 1 or 2 pages. You need an area. So it's just a template that really will help you succeed in one glance, because we were kind of laughing and talking about, like I have 5 planners for the new year, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of, and then I tell somebody, say, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, I have to look at my wall calendar, I have to look at my 5 planners, I was trying to keep it in my phone, and I'm like, but it would be nice if everything was at a glance there for you.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
So I think consistency is the tool for consistency for me would be, though, is to write it down, to make an intention of, and just going there, and being prepared. I think we talked about, preparing the day ahead.
Yes.
So many times, I think I said this in the last show. I mean, if we fail to plan, we plan to fail, and so we've got to be planning that out. When we have smaller children, you're real rigid on the, get your clothes laid out, lunch boxes made, because we got to get up, get the bus, get to school, start the night before. But the same thing with us. Maybe look at our day ahead and say, hey, how can, what does this look like? Okay, I have this, and
Yeah, I like that example because, again, you're right. When you have smaller kids that are relying on you, you go out of the way as a mama to get that stuff done, right? We plan the night before, and that is something I've mentioned Michael Hyatt in the first episode, which if you haven't watched that, you should go back and see that. It's very good about goal setting. But Michael Hyatt is someone who talks about planning the night before, like starting the day before. So for example, if I know one of my goals, which this is really one of my goals, is to spend 20 minutes, at least 20 minutes daily in God's presence, which preferably for me is in God's Word. And I want to do that before anybody else wakes up at my house, because my kids are smaller, so they don't need anything, because when they get up, they usually need something. So yes, I have to wake up earlier, which I love to do anyway, so that's not the problem. But I have had to set a desk space in my house because I'm not business minded and I'm not in that place right now, but I made a space in our guest room, and it's my desk, and I have my Bible laid out, I have the journal that I'll be using, I have pens. I've gotten to the point where I carry a bag that has a planner and my current journal, so that I'm ready at any time. If I've got an extra 15 minutes, I can relook at my goals or look at God's promises. But I've started the night before. I also will make a water the night before, a few waters the night before, so I have it handy because I want to work on my water intake. Right. But it's asking yourself because I know we're tired. I went through this last night. We had a lot of stuff going on last night for my kids, and then during the day I was with my girlfriend and we had a great time. But when I got home, finally I was like, oh, I don't want to do the dishes, I don't want to do that. But there were a few key steps that I remembered. If I want to have a peaceful morning tomorrow, which I struggle with sometimes, because then I'm like, everybody's got to do this, we got to get going. I need to plan the night before. We are worth taking a few 5-10 extra minutes before we go to bed and setting out those things, or the gym clothes, or having the bag packed that has your good snacks for the day, or whether your goal is want to read a certain book in this certain amount of time. Well, pack the book wherever you're going, stick it in your purse. Planning ahead, because again, you've already said when we don't plan, we plan to fail.
Right.
In that story, you chose to do the tasks. You chose to be consistent in the tasks that were most important to you not having a crazy morning. So consistency to avoid the crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. Ooh, that's good.
Consistency to avoid the crazy. I love that. Michael Hyatt again talks about, this is like along the same lines. He calls them activation. I think it's activation triggers. I don't know where I put it.
To trigger your activity, your action.
Yes. Did I not write it on here? I think it's activation triggers. So basically, okay, I know we're going back to the weight loss thing and whatever, but this is such a habit for me, but this is something that I used to have to work on. If I know I want to go to the gym in the morning, the night before, I've set out my workout clothes. I have my drink made. I have my water made. My headphones are charged. It takes an extra 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
But when I walk into my bathroom in the morning, what's one of the first things I see? My workout clothes. I don't have to think about picking out what I'm going to want to wear.
Right.
I'm half awake anyway, so I just slap it on and I'm already, and then I wake up and go do my makeup, do whatever else I'm going to do. Right. But I've already got part of that process done. So to help you stay consistent with some of these goals that you have, ask yourself, you want to take it a step further, ask yourself and then write it down, what you can be doing to prepare or to trigger your brain, because your brain is very smart. It's going to take some time for your brain to remember to consistently, like to form this habit, but your brain is smart enough to start picking up on it too.
Yeah.
And your brain is also smart enough, and the Holy Spirit is, to start giving you these little ideas that, oh my gosh, that would help me. That would help me 5 minutes in the morning. Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this before?
Yeah.
And then you write it down and it's a little bit of smooth sailing, a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And I think consistency is all about, you were saying when we were doing our production meeting and things like that, is evaluating. Really a key to being consistent is we've got to go back and reevaluate not just our goals, but maybe some of the promises or different things that we're dealing with. We've got to evaluate daily or weekly, you said, because if we're not,
evaluating your why or evaluating what you're even doing.
You were saying that you'll be tossed about, we'll miss the fruit. You were saying something
about
yeah.
Well, and that may be some of the times that you're not consistent on something, you have to evaluate it, because that may be you're not going at something aggressively or consistently because your heart really isn't in whatever that is anymore.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm reading that note. What you were talking about, Michelle. Yeah, if we aren't evaluating daily or weekly, we will continue to be tossed about and miss the fruit. Absolutely, and it reminds me of the James scripture that talks about, yes, this is a little bit different when you go to God and you're asking Him. Ask with expectancy. Don't doubt.
Right.
But again, this has to do with some of the lacking clarity or doubting. You want clarity and you want to stop doubting yourself. Look at your why.
Right.
Again, ask, like you said, asking yourself the why. Or we are missing the fruit. We are missing the why. We're missing even the small. Joyce Meyer is so big on celebrate. Lately, her message has been celebrating your small victories.
Right.
Yes, actually, that's a good key to consistency, girls.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Celebrating small
your
victories.
Because I think each consistent action that we do, each time we're consistent, we build upon and build upon and we build upon. So it's kind of like Kim's vision of the whole ladder. That's how we put another rung in the ladder. That's how that's how we get to where we need to be, is because we're being consistent. We're the next step, the next right move.
And you know what that builds? It builds momentum.
Exactly.
And when you've got momentum, we know how it feels. You're like, that one girl you've seen in the gym, another gym example, but she started losing a little bit of weight and you're noticing and you're like, oh my gosh. And she's probably working off of some of that momentum and she's going to continue. You're going to see it and you're going to see it. So finding ways to build that momentum, stacking those consistent things in your favor. I love that. That's really, really good.
That's good.
Back to Gretchen Rubin real quick. She talks a lot about knowing yourself. And so whatever it is you're trying to be consistent on, you have to really talk to yourself, write it down and say, do I do whatever this is better in the morning or the evening?
Right.
Does this work better for me when I'm around people or when I'm alone? Is this something that I better avoid or better, whatever it is? You need to figure out what works best for you, because don't fight the uphill battle of trying to do it against yourself. Know yourself first.
Yeah.
Right, and we're all different because we're not going to do it the same way. I mean, I used to really tell my kids, make God a priority first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was a big stickler on that. But I realized not everybody does that in the mornings. They have to either look at, my self-care is the first thing I put in the morning.
Yeah.
So, but I set myself time, or they set themselves time in the evening. I mean, I prefer it in the morning. That's just how I'm wired. But there's some people, but that's not how they're wired in the morning.
Right.
They're more so at night. And so my son is one. He's like, I like to do mine at night before I go to bed. And so knowing that we're all going to be different, we don't have to map our momentum after somebody else.
Ooh, that's
it can
good,
encourage us.
Yes.
It can encourage us to get
Yes.
moving. Somebody else's momentum can definitely get us spurred and get us excited, but we can't map ourselves after somebody else's. We just
That's
can't
very
do it.
Good. I like that point. I put in here, I was just about to say that. Oh, another key to consistency. This is consistency, and this is a big one, is having accountability.
And again, like you just said, we cannot map our momentum after someone else.
Right.
Okay? So I relate that to accountability is going to look different for each
Yes.
one
Right.
of us.
Right.
We may get our accountability in different ways. So this is one of those things where you have to ask yourself or ask a friend close to you and be praying about it. What does accountability look like for me?
Right.
And for me personally, accountability, I'm going to use an example of when I stopped drinking and when I really wanted to get closer to God. Accountability for me was having a Bible study, having a Bible study set up that I knew. It wasn't something I was setting up. It was one that I was going to every week. And because I like to, I remember at the time thinking I like to hang out with friends, like fellowship was a big part of that. But I had to look at that group and realize I need to be there every week. It's important because I need the accountability of having good girlfriends that know that I don't drink, that they may drink or whatever. That's none of my business, but they kind of know where I'm at.
Right.
They're on the same page, and they also are seeking the Lord. So that was accountability already built in for me, and that
Right.
started years ago because I haven't been drinking since I guess 2000. I don't even know now, but that's been in the last probably 8 years that I realized that I needed that. So fast forward to when in the last year and a half, I wanted to start eating healthier, not just to look good, but to feel better. I had to set up accountability again, and I had to ask myself, okay, well, how has this worked for me before? Like, what's the best way to do this? And I had 2 girlfriends at the time that we kept texting back and forth, and I finally was like, you know what? What if we just set up an accountability group and we just, we're all kind of struggling with this little area. It looks different for each one of us.
Right.
We all have different kind of life
Yeah.
things going on, but we kind of didn't. So that's what we did. Instead of just talking about, oh, we need to do this or do that, we would meet as often as we could and write some stuff down, and we'd be texting and praying and checking in, and that was our setup accountability. And we're still we'll go into stages, times when things get really busy because we're mamas and they're working, and
Right.
and so we have to remind ourselves, hey, we need to be meeting. But accountability for you may look like I see on Facebook, a lot of people do beach body groups, and they have amazing accountability.
Yeah, there's
groups.
a lot of support groups.
Yes.
There's a lot of groups there, or just even if I think because I've done recovery and I do a support group and things for the emotional eating. I mean, that's big in recovery. Is you have to have an accountability partner. You have your accountability group, which is your support group you go to each week, but you need to have an accountability partner that you can pick up the phone or you can text and you can say, this is where I'm at right now, or this is what I'm struggling with right now. So it's really good because we're not designed to do it alone. We're not designed to do it alone.
Yeah,
but a
that's
lot of
good.
people may not feel comfortable with an accountability group. But you can always find one accountability partner that you feel comfortable with. And if you don't have somebody in your community or close to you, I mean, a lot of people may be separated from family and friends because, job transfers and things like that. That's why there's so many great things on Facebook and those groups that you
do
can,
online.
that you could do online if you
Yeah.
don't have that support system around you.
Yeah, that's really good. Can y'all think of ways that accountability has worked for you guys that you think it's been? I know you talked about your groups, so that's really
that's
good.
really is holding accountable, and not to be not to beat yourself up like you said,
Right.
but also on the flip side, don't make it just be like, oh, I messed up again like that, but really consciously be willing to listen to when they say, do you think it might? I mean, I think we're real good about that when we talk and we say, hey, this is what I'm going through, and then we're kind of like, well, what if you looked at it this way? Do you see that? Well, no, I haven't looked at so we're real good about about, I think, showing each other a new view.
Keeping each
A new
other
view.
accountable on different things without setting the group up.
And willing to entertain a new view on how we're looking at something. Because a lot of people don't want to look at things a new way at all. They don't want to be told, that there may be
so
a
don't
different
get
way.
accountability group. I'm just kidding.
But yeah,
So
that's true.
for me, writing it down, I think, is the biggest thing.
accountability.
I get overwhelmed very rarely, but I'll make a whole chart and break it out into different areas of my life, what all I need to be tackling, and writing it down just really helps me. My big old to-do list in like a spreadsheet is
That
a
keeps you
big. It
consistent.
really
You and your
does.
spreadsheets. I want to be better about spreadsheets. I love those.
Yeah, good.
need a
good,
spreadsheet
good,
workshop.
Good consistency. So I think really is basically like we were talking about, writing it down and then getting that accountability partner or group. Someone to hold you
And the
accountable.
upholder personality is the one that if you put it on your calendar, you don't want to let yourself down by not doing it. So there's that. So
Is that
we're
a
not
thing,
designed.
like an upholder personality? There is?
Yeah.
Are you an upholder personality?
I think in a lot of areas I
Yeah,
am, but I think I go back and forth because I'm a questioner too. Why does that need to be done? There's
Oh yeah, she'll have to share that little nugget with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Actually, you'll
That's
catch
good.
up when you see the show
Yeah.
because it was
Okay,
actually.
yeah, I missed it.
Yeah.
Very good. I like that.
Can I just say one thing to you too, guys? And this has been new information for me too. As I research some of this, consistency you think of as well with habits. What kind of habits do we have? Or, if you have certain good habits, they build towards consistency in a good area. And then vice versa. And so as I was reading through different things about habits, Michael Hyatt, who I love again, talks about, the research that we've been following very closely, thinking that it's 21 days to a habit or whatever, 30 days or 4.
Right.
It's actually, it can actually take people up to 70 days to develop a solid habit.
And that's not meant to
And
be
that's
discouraging.
good. That's
I
good.
think that's kind of meant to give us some grace in knowing, because if I know how
like
I know
that.
how a large majority of my friends are, myself included, and women, we're just like sometimes we'll bang our head up against why are we not getting this? Why isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
It's not all 21 day fix.
It's not that
we were made a
laughing
joke about the
that.
other 21
Yeah,
day
Autumn
fix.
got it wrong.
The exercise program and things, 21 day fix. Yeah, I mean it gets you to start maybe momentum. But I know that I have seen just in recovery, like for emotional eating, people that are normally in recovery for whatever drug it is that they're struggling with, they want a quick fix. They want a quick fix and they want this to be the end all be all. So a lot of people, especially on the emotional eating end of it, they'll join a diet, they'll lose all the weight and they think, I'm done, I'm fixed, I'm healed. But that's not so. It's not so because
takes us longer,
it could take each individual longer, but just because you've gone on a fad, say diet, or a regimented workout program, that doesn't mean you're going to be consistent at it forever.
Yeah.
We have to build upon it. But I love how that is, he talks about some of us, it may take longer and giving ourselves grace, not saying, it's working, I guess going back to recovery, it says if you work it, it works it.
Yeah.
It works if you work it, so work it, you're worth it. So that's what we have to do. The keys to consistency I'm thinking of is we have to do our part.
Yes, absolutely.
Give yourself some grace in it.
Grace, yeah.
But knowing that it takes up to 70 days, you need to get yourself some grit.
Right.
And you need to realize that you're
Yep.
probably going to have to dig your heels in and dig
Dig
for
deeper.
some of these things to change
That's
or
funny,
happen
too.
or transform
Because the
or whatever.
21 day fix exercise thing, she says dig deeper. Because my daughter does them.
Yeah.
The 21 day fix, the exercise program, and she'll say dig a little deeper.
Yeah,
And then we
everybody's
laugh
been
because
saying that lately,
Connor will say, Mom, that's y'all saying,
Yeah.
dig
Grit
deeper.
doesn't live on the surface.
No.
No,
Oh,
yeah,
that's good. Girl,
Yeah.
you are full of one
Yeah,
liners.
that was mine. I just made that up.
Does
And-
not
love
live
that.
on the surface.
I have some comments by James Clear, who actually, I guess, I don't know, it's on grit, habits, motivation, and self-improvement. And once you realize that consistency is essential for success, it can be easy to obsess over becoming flawlessly consistent. For example, trying to lose weight. It's easy to convince yourself that if you don't follow your diet perfectly, then you have failed. If you want to meditate or become a successful writer, say you miss a day of doing that, and all of a sudden, you realize that only the successful writers and meditators do it every day, so you're not one of them.
Oh,
Pitfall.
Yeah.
So in other words, he says it's really easy to confuse being consistent with being perfect.
Good.
That is so good.
It's all about your average speed, not your maximum speed.
Ooh.
Daily failures are like red lights on a road trip. While you're driving a car, you'll come to a red light every now and then, but if you maintain a good average speed, you'll always make it to your destination despite the stops and delays along the way.
Oh, wow, that sings right there. It's your average speed, not your maximum speed. So we're all capable of going too slow, right around, too fast. And that's really, I think, how life works. Sometimes we are going faster or slower. And so if our average speed is what we average it out.
I'm all like, so it's okay for me to be average?
Yes. Average is the goal here.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the science experiments, the dome where you grow the trees, but there's no wind. And then you take the dome off and the trees all fall over. Life is, it's a real life. There's wind, there's water, there's all kinds of stuff. And we can't just pretend it has to fit just in this little project. No, it's real. And so it's just going to be plug along. Just keep plugging along.
And we're not going to go 0 to 100 and be fine. I mean, you go 0 to 100, you can lose control.
And get some whiplash.
Yep,
Whiplash.
I was thinking how my husband jumped. I'm kidding.
So really, it goes back to Galatians 6:9. Don't grow weary in well-doing.
Yes.
You know, if we're preparing, if we're looking at our routines, if we're staying grateful and we're staying in His promises, you know, we're not just going to, set the alarm, get up and go. We're going to schedule that holy hush time. We're going to schedule and plan ahead for the day ahead. So it's really, I think it's just don't grow weary in the well-doing. And if, like I said, we're going to be going into this third episode this week talking about how do we handle setbacks. But I think this is really good. This is tools for success that we can be consistent, keys to being consistent, but not beating ourselves up about it.
Right.
And that consistency is not perfect.
Perfect is a lie.
Perfect is a lie.
Yeah. I think that's really important. Consistency is not perfection.
And consistency is a journey.
Yes.
Yep.
Because for me, I struggle with, again, I'm going to go back to, let's just say gluten for my health. If I have any of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I kind of will freak out, or I just there will be different extremes of it. And so it's a matter of realizing that being consistent is not meaning being perfect, and not that I'm thinking perfect, like things look right. And I'm thinking of just,
not ever having any of it and doing it perfectly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like the tree. I have to be the tree in the elements. I can't be the tree in the dome.
Yes, be the tree in the elements. I love that.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, we hope that that's really good. We hope that you have been encouraged to learn some keys to consistency and go at your own pace. Don't map your momentum after somebody else.
Right.
Be the only person that you can be by being the best that you can be, by doing what it is you need to do. So we hope those tools for success lets you be uniquely you, instead of mapping out somebody else's. But we hope you've been encouraged. We hope you've gotten some tidbits and that you will be encouraged to get those tools for success so that you can start out a new year as a new you. Take care.